easy. We're two guys trying to figure out what is going on midweek. My name's Bob Dunlap.
Matheny. How are you, Bob? How's your week going so far?
It's going all right. It's going all right. For me, this week is it just seems like all roads lead to Ukraine. And the more I study this, the more it really is freaking me out. It really goes back to Obama sending Brennan to Ukraine using a fake passport. I wonder why he would do that. To dig up dirt on Trump for the 2016 election. And then I find out Popsicle Pelosi has a legislative aide from Ukraine that's hooked up with the military and a bunch of other things. And then also Ship for Brains, he's connected to a prominent UK arms dealer. And so is Pelosi. It just seems like they're freaking out so badly because all of the Democrats are all corrupt, and it's all centering around Ukraine. What do you think, Eric?
What's interesting, Bob, the first thing that I was thinking of today that came out quite a bit is that the whistleblower allegedly reached out to Schiff first and foremost. And Megyn Kelly, who I haven't agreed with in a long time, said on her Twitter today, wait a minute, the whistleblower reaches out to Schiff. Remember with Kavanaugh, Christine Blasey Ford, who did she reach out to? The Democrats. Why are these whistleblowers not going to police, not going to the intelligence community? Why are they finding their way to Adam Schiff and the congressional Democrats? Is that coincidence? What's going on?
No, it's not coincidence. And George Soros seems to be the guy you follow it and all ends up at his money. The guy is so corrupt. And he's not a whistleblower. He's a leaker, and he should go to jail.
Well, whoever it is, like we talked about on last week's show, Trump's had problems with leakers since day one. There's no confidentiality within that White House. And as I discussed last time, there are certain things that we don't need to know, and there does need to be security measures taken where that the leader of our country can have a speaking engagement with another leader, and nothing is going to be leaked to the public because that raises grave security concerns. There has to be that confidence and confidentiality that when two world leaders are on the phone with each other, what's said remains between them. And frankly, all the people listening in, apparently Pompeo was on the call too, and he's going to testify because they're going to subpoena him.
Yeah, well, the problem is if I'm a world leader in some other country, I'm like, well, I don't want to talk to Trump because it's just going to come out. So, I mean, who would want to talk to him?
Well, the Democrats don't care. They don't care what effect this has on international relations. They don't care what effect this has on anybody except the effect it has on Trump. This is a power play. We're witnessing for the second time a coup. We saw it with Russia. We're witnessing it again. It is happening right before our eyes. Fortunately, I think this time we're much more wise to it than we were 3 years ago.
Let me throw this in too. The Democrats are willing to do nothing about healthcare, reducing prescription drugs costs, homelessness, illegal aliens. They're willing to do nothing just to get Trump. That's it. So they don't care about the small guy. They don't care.
Well, it makes no sense because you have to look at the root of it. The Democratic Party, their political ideology is liberalism, and liberalism thrives where people are poor, are downtrodden, and need the government to help them. If you and I are self-reliant, if we make our own money, if we take care of ourselves, we have less need for the government. We need a smaller government that handles, make sure the roads are paved and make sure the police come on time, and that's about it. With liberalism, the idea is this is a nanny state. You need us 100% to cover all aspects of your life. And in exchange, we're going to tax the hell out of you. And we're going to take care of you from the cradle to the grave. That's liberalism. Unfortunately, in 2019, you can't tell it apart from socialism.
It just sounds really appealing. The way they sell it, we care about the little guy. And they don't care about the little guy. As a matter of fact, they'd love to see us dead, conservatives. They don't care about the little guy. It's a lie. All they do is lie.
Why do you think they're making a pitch for young people, for voters under 30? These are ill-informed. I'm not going to say uneducated. I'm going to say inexperienced. Look, when I was in my early 20s and you said, hey, we're going to give you free college, we're going to give you free this and that, I go, oh my goodness, it's great. Now that I'm a taxpayer, I bought and sold homes, I understand how the world works. I'm like, well, wait a minute. Someone's going to have to pay for that. I start sounding like my father.
I'm sorry to say that. Yes, you are.
No,
my dad. It's funny, once you start working and seeing how much taxes they come out, as the older you get, the more conservative you get. You get married and kids, and it's funny, 30, 40-year-olds, very few liberals, believe it or not. I know maybe they're loud, but once you're in your 30s and 40s, you're like, hey, they've been lying to us. And they turn out conservative a lot of times.
Well, that's what they say. They say if you're 20 and you're not a liberal, you have no heart. And if you're 40 and you're not a conservative, you have no brain. I'll be here all week. So let's talk about impeachment. If we're talking about Ukraine, we got to talk about this impeachment. What's going on? I've been doing a little studying and looking at how impeachment's done historically, and we've really pursued it 3 times. The first time was Andrew Johnson in 1868. The impeachment process began. And then we did it again with Nixon, where we actually initiated the impeachment inquiry, though he resigned before it went to a floor vote in the House. And then Clinton obviously went all the way through trial, same as Andrew Johnson. Both Johnson and both Clinton, both Southern Democrats, both acquitted. But there are certain historical norms that are followed. And these historical norms include bipartisan working together, where the Republicans or the Democrats or whatever party is on the side of the president being impeached has certain rights to issue subpoenas, to hold hearings of their own, essentially create a defense for the president. And the House is ignoring all that. They're just sort of ramming it through, which would make no difference to compare what they've been doing the last 3 years. But is it really an impeachment? It seems like an impeachment in name only. They're really not following process, and they're really not doing anything different. So how is this different than, Nadler having a hearing, or Pelosi or Schiff having a hearing like they've been having?
It's not any different. It's never going to end. God forbid he wins when he wins in 2020. At least, hopefully, in 2020 we'll take the House back, and I don't know, maybe go after them. It's no different though. It's all a circus.
Bob, I think my sentiments have been echoed by a lot of conservatives out there. We had the House. We had the House up until 2018, and what did we do with it? And we have the Senate now, and what are we doing with it? Is it really helping us to have a Republican majority?
Well, at least if we get the House back, we won't have Popsicle Pelosi flapping her gums in front of the TV all the time. Shut up!
Well, look, if this impeachment effort fails, which I believe it will, I don't even know how far it's going to go. But if it fails, bear in mind that when Trump wins, and I say when, not if, when he wins re-election, they're probably going to try to do it again. As long as we have a Republican majority, we can at least stave that off, where it's not going to happen. But again, I'm holding the Senate Republicans accountable and what they need to be doing. And one thing that I was thinking about today, and we discussed it just a minute ago, the whistleblower came to Adam Schiff before he came to anyone else. Doesn't that make Adam Schiff a witness? Shouldn't he recuse himself from his role in Congress conducting these hearings as committee chairman, and he becomes a witness? And why aren't the Senate Republicans subpoenaing him and saying, hey, you've got knowledge. What did the whistleblower say? Can we get the identity? Can we get the identity of the whistleblower disclosed?
He's got to recuse himself. It's a great point. Personally,
no one's going to force him to do it.
The Senate Republicans suck, as far as I'm concerned.
They do. They're absolutely worthless right now, and there's so much they could be doing to help and to defend their president and to serve their constituency, because you have 94% of Republicans supporting this president, and you still have a majority of people in this country that are not on board with impeachment. It's incredibly divisive. We don't want to go through this process, and it gets us nowhere. We know that this is an empty road. We know that it's not going to go anywhere, and the president's not going to be removed from office. So why subject us to it when he hasn't done anything wrong? He hasn't met the constitutional threshold for high crimes and misdemeanors.
They have no choice. They can't let Trump win on anything, and they have to. When he's out of office, they have to throw him in jail. You saw what Maxine Waters said. She wants him thrown in solitary confinement. She doesn't want him just impeached. That's really what they want. Impeached plus thrown in jail.
Bob, as far as I'm concerned, her credibility is gone. The moment she rallied those people in a parking lot and said, when you find members of that administration at a gas station or a restaurant, you surround them, you get in their face. What do you think prompted that violence we saw? People lining up outside of Mitch McConnell's home, people assaulting Ted Cruz in a restaurant. Kellyanne Conway's been subject to it. Sarah Huckabee Sanders. What do you think started that whole process, that whole series of attacks on administration members we saw was a direct result of that? And we've seen real violence. We're not living in an era where violence is hypothetical. Ask Steve Scalise. Ask Andy Ngo, who had cement hurled at his head. Republicans, conservatives are under physical attack. You don't make light of that. And the moment she came out and said that, she lost all credibility. I don't care what she has to say. I can't believe her constituents still elect her.
What about Nancy Pelosi saying, let's pray for Trump and his safety? It kind of sounds like she's saying, hey, everybody, go assassinate Trump, doesn't it?
It does, and I think she'd be thrilled if something like that happened. And we just got to power through it. These are the cards we're dealt. The conservatives need to step up. The Senate Republicans need to step up, and we will get through this. And I believe one thing that they've underestimated this time, and they underestimated in 2016, is not only is President Trump a counterpuncher, but the 70+ million who support him, and I think it's even higher than that, are counterpunchers. And you don't realize that every attack, all the fake news, all the nonsense out on Twitter is only making us stronger. And we vote and we're vocal, and we will get him reelected.
Yeah, what he said.
So moving on, I wanted to talk about something else that I saw this week involving Chicago, with Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot. She issued an order to the chief of police, the Chicago Police Department, that they cannot assist ICE agents when they're coming into the communities to arrest illegal aliens with immigration removal orders already against them. Now, this piggybacks on the fact that Chicago is a sanctuary city. Chicago jails will not cooperate with immigration. They will not cooperate and follow ICE detainer agreements. If someone is illegal and they're in this country and they commit a crime and get arrested, so this isn't just people getting rounded up because they're here illegally. You're here illegally and you get a gun charge, you get a drug charge, you attempted murder, something, you go to jail. What they're supposed to do is when ICE has that detainer on them and you run their digits and you go, oh, you got a detainer, they're supposed to, within 48 hours, contact ICE and say, hey, come pick this guy up. You know, I'm a criminal defense attorney. I see it all the time. You look up a client's record, they're in jail. There's a big asterisk and it says immigration hold, meaning that the jail will not release them. Even if they have a bond, the jail will not release them because they're going to hold them for a period of time for ICE to come get them. Now, if ICE doesn't come and get them, they're going to let them go. But at least for about 48 hours, they're going to hold them. Chicago doesn't do that. Chicago says, we don't care about their immigration status. We're going to let them go. If they have a bond, they can go back into the community. So now ICE has to go to Chicago, and they have to go into these neighborhoods, these dangerous gang-infested neighborhoods. Chicago just had almost its 2000th shooting this year. They have to go into these neighborhoods, and now they have to go into the neighborhoods alone because Chicago PD cannot help them.
What do you think of that, Bob? I think it sucks. I think it's a joke. I can't believe it. I think we're in a civil war. I think these people are trying to ruin America. I can't understand it. I think it's backwards. I hate it.
It makes no sense logically, but it does make sense for those who want to stay in power. So Lori Lightfoot is an incredibly socialist liberal mayor. She was recently elected, took over for Rahm Emanuel. We didn't think it could get much worse. Oh, it got much worse. Chicago's got a pandemic level of violence, gang violence, predominantly black on black violence. You want to talk about institutional racism. Let me tell you, if 2 shots are fired in Beverly Hills, there'll be action taken. You can have 10, 15, 20 get shot in a weekend in Southside Chicago, and it's again, low expectations of that community. That's the true definition of institutional racism. So what happens now is Chicago, they are prohibited. They are no longer allowed to assist ICE. So when ICE officers come, instead of Chicago PD coming to back them up, they're like, no, ICE, you're on your own. And they're going into these dangerous neighborhoods, and we're not giving support to our federal law enforcement partners, and we're not making our communities safer.
I just think it's a joke. I think it's a fraud. It's very saddening. It almost makes me want to cry with sadness.
Well, nothing will happen. And again, while we waste time with this impeachment hoax, you have Americans, poor Americans, minority Americans, the communities that the Democrats are supposed to stand for are living in filth and squalor and under horrific violent conditions, more violent than you'd see in Iraq or Afghanistan. You have numbers like El Paso and Dayton shootings every weekend there, and nobody cares. The media doesn't care. They don't get the hashtags. They don't get the marches. Nobody speaks for these people. And Trump is trying to lift all communities. And how does he get repaid? They want to impeach him because their feelings are hurt because he won the 2016 election. So
yeah,
maddening.
what's kind of cool too is at least you have the two of us to watch to push back. I know certainly Trump's leading the charge, but there's millions of people like Eric and I. So we really appreciate people watching. How many people are we up to for Saturday's show?
For Saturday's show, we've had some big numbers. We had 15,000 for our last Saturday show, the one before it, this past Saturday, and we're at Wednesday. We're at over 11,000 viewers today. So we're hitting 10, 15,000 viewers every episode. It's good. We're a new show, and it's really wonderful. And that's a great audience, and I'm so pleased that people tune in and want to hear what we have to say. One more thing, or two more things I want to touch on before we wrap up this shorter episode. New York City's made it illegal to say illegal alien. Can't say illegal alien, $250,000 fine. So I guess if we broadcast this in New York City, does that apply to you and I?
Illegal alien.
Illegal alien.
Hey, why 250? Why not make it $1 million? I don't know.
$1 million, man. Illegal alien. Say it again. Alien. I wanted to touch on one more issue that was in the news today. Not so much political news, but it does touch on cultural and social issues, is the issue of Dallas police officer Amber Geiger. I'm a defense attorney. Obviously, this is my wheelhouse. So as you may or may not know, she was the officer back in September of 2018, coming off of a shift. She parked on the wrong floor of her building. She walked into the wrong apartment, saw a guy named Botham Jean, 26-year-old accountant, a young black male from St. Lucia, sitting down, having a bowl of ice cream, watching TV at night. Stands up or may have crouched over, and Amber Geiger, believing that she was in her apartment, thought he was an intruder, pulled out her service weapon, boom, boom, double tap. She's trained to shoot to kill, shot him dead. She was found guilty by a jury, second-degree murder. It was a fair verdict. It was a fair charge. A lot of people are like, why is it murder if it was an accident? It was murder because she did intend to kill him. The killing was not accidental. It's not like I backed my car into you and I didn't mean to. She meant to kill him. The circumstances surrounding the murder was not premeditated. There was not malice of forethought, but she acted with reckless disregard. There was substantial evidence that came out in the trial that there were these indicators that she should have known where she was. She parked on the wrong floor. There were things that she should have known. Had she been aware, she would have realized she was walking into the wrong apartment. She was on the phone with her lover. They had a 16-minute phone conversation from the time she left the station and got back to the apartment. I don't know what they talked about. I don't know if she was distraught. If I may chime in and make a bold prediction as to why she walked into the wrong apartment.
Go ahead. Oh.
Oh, I'm in the wrong apartment. Oh, not paying attention. And it has grave consequences.
Yes, it does. She's going to jail for a long time.
Going to jail. So that about wraps us up for the Wednesday wrap. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. We'll be here Saturday, 12 noon Eastern time, our usual time. Bob, anything else?
Trump 2020.
Trump 2020. God bless. MAGA on, guys.
You've been listening to New Right Network, mobilizing, countering, energizing. Online at newrightnetwork.com.